Perfect. Looks like it's going. All right. Um, Welcome. We're going to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. That's great. Let's go through the previous minutes. I think, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I have to read the intro clause anymore,
Nope.
right? That's
Nope.
okay. Nice. All right. Thanks, Larry, as always, for sending out the previous minutes. Let me share my screen and let's review. Can we discuss the ARPA projects that we were going to recommend to the ARPA committee? We'll be discussing that as well tonight. Heard about the finalized server config. And discussed briefly the public hotspots. And I think we adjourned early.
Oh,
Time.
yes, we did. But I don't have the time. But it was early.
Sorry.
Somebody talking? Hello?
Nobody's talking besides Matt. You talking? Can't hear you.
I can hear you, Larry. I can't hear Matt anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to also put my earphones in. That might help me a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, is that any better?
That's better.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Just had to reboot the headphones, of course.
Yeah, it appears that I forgot to put the adjourn time on the minutes.
I don't know if you have to put the adjourn time in minutes.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I try to remember to do that, but I guess I missed. But it was an early adjournment last time, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. Any motions to amend or revise?
No.
Okay, I move that we approve the minutes as is.
Second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Will?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Likewise, aye. Okay, thanks again for, as always, Larry, for doing that. All right, let's jump into 5-year strategic tech plan. Angela, do we have any updates? This sort of relates to the any sort of prep we want to do for the town meeting, especially if we wanted to prepare sort of another trifold, either physical or digital, and so forth. Yeah.
Just pull up. I sent this out via email, so everyone should have copies of it. But I will also, do I have the ability to share my screen, Matt?
Should we can make you you should be able to try it. Oh, yep.
Yeah,
Jason, make you co-host. Thanks.
So the current version with the most recent edits should be version 5.3. And I've updated the most recent draft to March 2022, draft 5.3. The only change here is the addition of an executive summary. So I included an executive summary that essentially is a summary of everything that's included in the report. So that was completed. That was on Larry's list of action items. So if folks want to take a look, read through that, and then let me know if you have any edits. I also updated our, find our flyer strategy brochure.
Actually, Angela, let me cut you off. I apologize. I completely forgot. I have a terrible memory. I want to, first of all, express a warm welcome to Joe Provo, who was recently appointed to the
Joe,
committee by the school committee.
welcome.
So I want to give Joe a few minutes to introduce himself, and I apologize. I
Sure.
should have
No worries.
So
provided that time.
are we fully up to staff now?
We're fully up to staff. Joe hasn't completed all of the OML, the glorious OML, wonderful training, etc. And so he's not a voting member for this meeting, but he will be for the meeting. We aren't fully up to staff because the school committee still needs to appoint a ex officio, and so I'm working with the school committee on that. Sorry, Joe, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Joe Provo. I've been a Southborough resident for just about 20 years, just shy of. I have a 30-something year career in technology, started doing contract programming, system administration, and so forth in 1990. I've been in 1984 as part of a startup ISP, Ultranet out of Marlborough. Some folks may remember. I did everything from build the front end facing systems to building network.
You're not the one who took. You're not the one that took all the Sportster modems and took the tops off and nailed them down to plywood. I went to
no, that was
once.
That was Al Marshall, ACM. Unfortunately, he's passed away. He was a brilliant. We had a bunch of founders who, well, we had a bunch of initial investors. We were actually rare in the ISP startup world in being in the black in our first 6 months. We had a bunch of initial investors who were from Proteon, and Al Marshall was one of those early Proteon guys.
Yeah.
He was one of those folks who retired multiple times. Just he couldn't actually stay retired. He designed very brilliant power distribution systems. I'll put it that way. In 1994, I also got the delegation for K-12 MAUS management from John Postel, and I've been managing that on behalf of DOE for a long time now. Pretty straightforward these days because it's not an open-ended domain space. It's all the districts in Massachusetts. Pretty simple. Run that with a set of volunteers. I have worked in ISPs, in enterprise, and have been at Google for the last almost 11 years. As of April, it'll be 11 years. And I have primarily done network engineering. I've done implementation, design, operations, analysis, lots of consulting on the side. And last 3 years, my focus has been in network security. And what else is useful to say? I always right size any sort of consulting job. So it's not I've been at Google, so I answer everything as a Google answer. That's ridiculous. That's not for everyone. That's just for that space. I also was on the North American Network Operations Group, the NANOG steering committee, when it was still run by Merit. I was on that for a few years and was part of transitioning it to an independent entity, 501c3, that I was the architect of its initial budget to go independent. And for the last 6 years, it's ending this, I've performed on the ARIN, American Registry for Internet Numbers Advisory Committee. So I'll be up for additional, up for another term, another 3-year term at the end of this year. And that's just creating policy, shepherding policy regarding internet numbers and global internet governance. And I live on the South Side, so South Side represent.
And you were appointed by the school committee?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Joe, since you're a newbie, I've only been here 33 years, so I too am still learning my way around. And apparently, if you come on the south side, from the south side of town, you're on the wrong side of the tracks. So, just wanted to let you know it's nice to meet someone else on the wrong side.
Will, I didn't know you were a newbie.
Well,
I've been in this house for 44 years, so.
Yeah, I've only been here since '93, so what can I say? Sorry.
Okay. Well, any other questions for Joe? Welcome, Joe. Thank you for your willingness to volunteer time and join us and serve the community, serve the town. All right, let's pass it back over to Angela. Sorry about that, Angela.
All right, welcome, Joe. And maybe I should have given a little bit more background in light of the fact that we have a new committee member. So just a little bit of background on the strategy. The committee had been working on this for quite a while before I joined the committee. And when I came on board, I kind of took over being the primary editor for the town technology strategy. It's a document that we continue to update as we get more data from the citizen survey. We did an initial draft, and then once we ran the last citizen survey in 2021, we then updated the strategy paper with the results from that survey. We expect that we would do the same thing with the results of the current citizen survey that's currently in progress. But essentially, it lays out some of our technology goals for the town, some of our guiding principles, our goal of being a data-driven strategy for the town. We have a snapshot of our current technology systems and a high-level 5-year plan of what we're working towards. So would love, Joe, if you would have an opportunity to read that and provide any feedback that you might have. And the most recent update does include the executive summary. So if folks have a chance to read through that and just let me know any edits or feedback that you might have. Once we have a 5.4 version with your input, then I can send that along to Jason and we can get the website updated so that the most recent copy is available to the public. Any questions or comments on the strategy?
Yeah, just to add, thank you, of course, as always, Angela, for maintaining this and continuing to keep up to date. This is actually one of the sort of foundational things for the MTC Charter. It is baked into our bylaw that we are to maintain a 5-year strategy. And I think it's a good thing. It helps sort of unify what are our goals, what are long term, what are we trying to achieve, and how do we get there? So hopefully, as you look through this, Joe, the fresh set of eyes, I'd love to get your thoughts on, is it clear? Is it clear both what ultimately the goal destination should be for the town, as well as what steps and how do we measure ultimately? How do we measure success towards that strategy? Because it's one thing to say 5 years we want to do something, but to truly measure it and ideally measure it on a more frequent basis, the better. Well, you see that Mr. Litt has a comment. I'll allow you to talk. Go ahead, Mr. Litt.
Just Angela, if you get a chance, would you send me your current draft?
Sure, absolutely.
Thanks. And Joe, if you get in touch, as I mentioned at the school committee meeting, I can give you the how the MTC works, at least from my point of view, since I originally put it together. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks.
And then I also updated, I will need to now further update this because Joe, I don't have you on here, but I did update our flyer. And I wanted to ask you, Matt, about the survey specifically and how long that was going to be open, because I thought I read on the website it was just until April 4th, and I don't know if there's value in actually having these printed and try to distribute them if we're just keeping the survey open for another week or so. But I did update with Ryan and Ryan's information. I added the new QR code for the current survey. And I made, I think, a few other updates to the document. So we have this that we can then distribute if we want to try to get it. I think last year we talked about trying to put some at the senior center, maybe some at Morrow's, just kind of key locations around town.
So to the point, so yeah, I'd be happy to provide an update on where we are with the surveys. We have really partnered with the ARPA committee on the survey this year. The ARPA having one survey, and then we side by side with this the annual satisfaction survey, that includes various metrics that go back into the technology strategy. They had a strong interest in, well, initially they proposed like a couple of weeks. I said it would be much better if we did 3 weeks. And I think it makes sense to just keep it open the same amount of time, especially because luckily with their push for ARPA, they're doing a mass push for all residents in town to have it. So we put up a A-frame sign. As before, advertising through my South Borough, various Facebook groups, the road sign at DPW, the A-frame sign at the corner of Main and 85. And one thing we haven't done before this year, but the ARPA committee had funds for it, was send out mailers to all town residents. So it should hit everybody's mailbox either today or tomorrow. I don't know if you checked your mail, if anybody's received it yet, but something Mr. Hegarty had been helping facilitate. Basically a little card that has a QR code on it and link to the survey, and it basically encouraging all town residents to take the surveys, starting with the ARPA survey.
When did the survey open?
March 14th, and it goes through April 4th, so 3 weeks.
So does it make sense if we've already done a mailer and that mailer is going to have a QR code on it that will take residents out to the survey? Should we remove the survey from this flyer and have it more as a marketing piece for the MTC and target I think it's May 4th and 5th town meeting, and just do it more as a marketing piece for the MTC?
Yes, marketing for us, not necessarily, I wouldn't call it necessarily a marketing piece for the MPC, more of a marketing piece for the
strategy.
The strategy. Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, well then let me make some more edits to it. I'll remove the survey stuff. Joe, if you have a headshot, could you send it to me in email? We have this little section of the survey where it just has a little picture of folks, and I can reach out to Ryan and get a better shot, but I just put you right in there with a picture if you can provide it.
So on a really related note, is the current thoughts that we would do another trifold flyer printed at town meeting, or would we prefer to do QR codes that people scan from the tables?
I think that people responded very positively to the trifold. I just think that this time we need to make sure that we get all the extra copies, and then we can figure out additional stuff to do with them so that they don't get thrown away after the meeting.
Yeah, I like the trifold. Any other comments on the format for distribution? Or
I would say, only because I'm thinking in a technology mind, that a QR code would probably be the better approach. Less paper, less trees coming down, and it's technology, so it would be pretty cool to have it on a QR code somehow.
My fear with just doing the QR code is we already know that there's a lot of citizens who struggle with technology, and are they going to be able to deal with a QR code? I mean,
yeah, that would be my fear also. I mean, I tend to go towards the technological solution, but having playing the house for a second, I'd be concerned that looking at the audience who attends town meeting, we might find an awful lot of people who either would be reluctant to try to scan a QR code, or just not able to do it at all. So
I mean, it is more mainstream
any reason why
these
we
days.
couldn't do both?
I have
There we
a
go.
question on QR codes. I mean, you scan it with your phone and you end up looking at the website on your phone, right?
This isn't a
Or the
website, though.
brochure.
This is a document.
But you scan it with your phone and then you're looking at the document, or you're downloading it, or what?
We can decide where we want the QR code to go. Go to a PDF, go to a web page, go to
But that's
A JPEG.
doc.
it's going to appear on your phone. You're going to look at it on
Okay.
your phone.
Yes.
Right.
That's correct.
Right.
We'll see it as a PDF or
Yeah, I know some people that have a hard time dealing with everything on the phone screen because it's so small.
Yeah.
And I just that's the one, to me, a downside of QR codes is that you can't really take your desktop PC over there and scan it.
Yeah, I would vote for the hybrid approach. Have a stack of brochures and have a big picture of a QR code saying "Save paper, scan our QR code." And the people who want to do that will scan the QR code, and the people who want paper will take the paper, and everybody will be happy.
Well,
Then
what
we
about
can do less? We can order less.
But what about a third approach, which is just tell people that it's on the MTC webpage on the town website? That way people can access it using whatever device they want.
I mean, yeah, right next to the QR code, we could say MTC. But I think there are some people who like to have the ease of a QR code. And a QR code doesn't necessarily mean you have to. It's only be read on a web device. There's no reason why they couldn't, scan it from their phone and cast, or to bookmark it. Wouldn't that be nice if somebody bookmarked us?
I think you're.
Next thing you know, you'll be wanting to show up in Google searches.
Yeah, I just think I just think, speaking as someone who doesn't look at his phone or can't see his phone that well, that's now you're beginning to get into stuff that's not usually done. And like I said, I think it should be linked to the MTC website, especially if it's something like this that's a relatively important document.
Absolutely. So I think, Angela, as within the past, has worked with Jason on getting it published. And that's what we will do. And so and there's no reason why we can't, again, have the hybrid approach of having the flyers, have a thing that says, or go to the MTC website and then put a QR code and let people decide.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Why don't you finish?
No, go ahead, please. No, that's all I was gonna say.
I'm thinking maybe we could have a smarter hybrid approach that could.
Okay.
Instead of the stupid one we've got, or
what if what we did was we actually printed the QR code on something like a 3x5 index card and had a stack of them there. So rather than having to scan it right then and there, you could take the card home with you. It would have the URL of the MTC on it also. But now if some people, for example, could scan it with their iPad and see a big picture of it at home, as opposed to having to do it with their phone because there's one QR code on the table at the town meeting. But if they could take something and put it in their pocket or their purse, then they could actually have it at another time and scan it at another time. And that doesn't use a lot, using 3x3 or 3x5 or something cards and just printing them wouldn't use up a huge amount of paper.
sounds good.
So it sounds like a hybrid approach is flyers or a stack of just really small,
Cards with a QR code,
QR code, and a web and saying MTC
and the URL.
website here.
Yeah.
It seems like a good approach. Any other thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Sounds good. All right. That's what we'll plan on doing. And so, and going back to the results, yeah, we will have results of the survey before town meeting. I've been in touch with the volunteer data scientists, and they are starting to update their code again for this year. They use primarily Python, I think, to analyze the results. And so after April 4th, when this ends, the surveys end, they will first target analyzing the ARPA survey, as that is the highest priority, getting the results back to the ARPA committee, who has to do a few things before town meeting. But then they will work on getting us the results so we can update our strategy doc before town meeting as well. So basically, it can be used to present. I haven't been informed. I don't know the current status of town meeting yet to know whether they're going to try to bypass the presentations up front. Perhaps Mr. Stivers or Mr. Litt in the audience might know. I'm hoping that we will have an opportunity, as we have done in previous years, to present a slide or two at the beginning of town meeting on the status of technology. Basically, what's the 30 to 60-second overview of town technology status as we've previously done. If we have that opportunity, I would love to put some slides together and present. So looks like Mr. Litt has a comment. Yes, Mr.
Well,
Litt.
as far as I know, the pre-town meeting is to be scheduled. I think the next selectmen's meeting or so, there's discussion of that. That's when the moderator will give out his guidance. It is going to be indoors this time. It's at the
Algonquin.
at Algonquin. And so at least there's an opportunity to project. But we'll see. I think there's also pressure to keep it short because of the time and all that. Back on the brochure or cards or whatever, my personal inclination would be to stick with something that anyone can read, because I take Will's point and Larry's point. There are an awful lot of people who attend town meeting who are not, don't have a smartphone, who struggle with a computer. And at least if you hand them something they can read, they'll read it. And if people want to explore it online, you give them that option. I don't think it's a material amount of paper.
Yeah, we are planning to do the trifold as before, so we'll have that as an option. Yeah.
Well, maybe I missed the hybrid suggestion of business card size as an alternative to that.
Oh yeah, the hybrid approach is 2 pieces of paper. Pick and choose either the business card size with QR code, or if you don't want that, you can take the full trifold brochure.
Okay.
Or both.
Or both. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mr. Litt.
Hey, Joe, do you have an email we can use tonight? I wanted to forward you an email while we're talking.
Just while we
while we're on YouTube, let's not share YouTube email.
The Southborough Town account has been activated. I'll put it.
Okay, so you can look them up on. We can send it to you afterwards. Well, okay. Thanks. All right. So yeah, Angela, what are your thoughts on preparing some slides? I'd be happy to help with that, or if you want to take the first draft, just in case. Maybe we wait until after what we
get the results.
Get the results as well as what we hear.
Do you know timing on when we think, if they're starting with the ARPA survey, when will they give us the results of the citizen survey? Would that be like late April?
Yeah, late April. Yeah.
The meeting is the 4th and 5th. So yeah, I mean, we should mock up something and then we can just stick in the data once we get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good. Okay. Thanks. All right. So I think that covers any other comments or questions on the ARPA survey. Thanks again, Angela, for your previous work on all the art, submitting those. I'm eager to find out how the tech projects do.
Um,
that
I mean, we
proposed.
did submit them. They were included on the survey. So I think we're just waiting. They have $3 million to distribute. And based on the results of that survey, we'll know where the technology projects ranked and whether we're actually going to get any of that funding. So at this point, I think we're in a little bit of a holding pattern until we get those results back.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on to tech status and strategy. Jason, do you provide any sort of update on the server? Are we still sort of on a holding pattern while we wait for the hardware? I'm guessing it's probably be a few more months till we get it or something like that.
So it should be. I actually just sent out another email today just to see if there was any new updates, but it's still looking like end of May, beginning of June is when I'm going to get the switch in. I have everything else but the switch, which which is a key component right now to getting this going. So definitely on hold. And once I know more, I will definitely let you know. And like I said, I tried poking the bear this morning to see if anything would come from it, and still the same as of right now. They're waiting for another update.
And that was what was the last update? I missed it. Today.
Sorry, the switch. The switches are on order, so I'm waiting to like either end of May or beginning of June is when they're going to come in. Yeah.
Is this a special kind of switch?
No, nothing special about it at all. Besides what it is, it's nothing special. So
just a 10G switch, or
just back ordered. Yeah, 10G switch. That's back ordered, and it's it goes from switches to I have docking stations I've been waiting for since November. Laptops. I ordered laptops. I ordered docking stations with them, and the same email I sent out today about the switches, I asked about the docking stations because I'm running low. I just literally handed out my last one with a rollout, and they emailed me telling me probably around April 25th for docking stations is when they're expecting that to come in. So it's across the board on a lot of things. I was kind of surprised that the equipment itself came in so fast, but it did, and it's there. It's sitting at the police department, just holding steady.
Well, that's great that we got most of the equipment in. And just out of my curiosity, the switches is a pair of switches with redundancy and some sort of interconnect or let's go lag between them, link aggregation, so that they active, basically.
Yeah. And a lot of this configuration stuff, once I get how it's going to be all put together, which is part of the meetings we're supposed to have. Once I paused the meetings because they were going to have one in January, and I'm like, well, I don't even have the equipment, so let's not talk about config yet until we get at least something in our hands. So when I have more details, I can talk to you about it and some of the group if I need to as well.
Sounds great. Yeah, we'd love to help and out of curiosity join in those discussions. So on a related note, now we have Joe on the committee. I know we've talked quite a bit about our ultimate goal is to shift as much as possible, or shift where it makes sense, services to the cloud. And one of the important things to enablers of that is making sure that our own network itself has sufficient, redundancy, but some level of ISP provider redundancy, possibly active failover, etc. I think now is a great time to do a review of the physical layout of the network, especially as we prepare for, and as I hopefully work with the school committee on getting a ex officio appointed to our committee, finding synergies between town services and the schools. And we've been discussing, I think, for a couple of years now, possibly interconnections between the two so that the schools don't have to have their own network connections, etc. So we can take this offline, but I'd love to find some time, Joe, to work with you and Jason and do just review of current status of things and find opportunities to discuss, especially where we want to interface, propose things to the schools or not. So
Happy to review, happy to help.
next thing is anything we can do, Jason, to help with the hiring or searching LinkedIn for helping for you. What can we do to help with the hiring, and how's that going?
Not so positive, but we're still, there's just been a lot. It's really weird. It's a very odd market right now. I get people, they talk to me, they go through the whole interview process and then either don't want to make the move in the sense of like they have something else going on or family things that are coming up that they don't want to make the move. So it's a weird market. I do have about 2 interviews coming up in the next couple of days. One of them is on Thursday, definitely. I had one on Monday, and by Monday afternoon, they changed their mind and what they want to do. So it's been a weird market. I've never seen something like this, at least in my career, and I'm hoping that something changes in the coming weeks. As far as help, the only help I would ask for is if anybody here has anybody that they can recommend to apply to the job, by all means do. We've put this advertisement out there in quite a few locations at this point. So if you found something different than what we have put out there, which is like the main, locations to go to, Indeed, LinkedIn, MMA, you name it, we've kind of even Dice, we've put it out there. So we've put it out in quite a few places. Applications either are not where we want them to be in a sense of background and knowledge in IT, or people are just applying that have no IT background at all, which is very odd. But
Hey Jay, does the town actually have recruiters? Like, is there an individual in the town that's like going out to LinkedIn and actually trying to find people that fit the job description and
there's no
inviting them
specific.
to apply?
Yeah, there's no specific person that does. Vanessa is a lot of what has been assisting me with that, and internally between the selectman's office and getting in touch with people and stuff like that. We don't have a per se recruiter for the town.
Nor from my discussions with Vanessa, nor have we ever paid recruiter fees and headhunter fees. So that's,
I mean, given how hot the market is right now, thinking we're going to passively get somebody who's just going to stumble upon our job description and apply seems like quite low in terms of odds. I mean, we need a recruiter who's going there and really going through LinkedIn, looking at profiles, reaching out to people.
The price tag is not cheap, unfortunately, and that's the other problem that comes with a recruiter. So
yeah.
Well, when I was on, I can't remember if it was the advisory meeting or one of the last meetings, they were talking about potentially changing the salary level of the second role if we weren't able to attract the right talent. I mean, if we're willing to do that, why wouldn't we be willing to pay an executive recruiting fee?
I don't recall us saying that.
Because you made the point that if they're going to change the other salary, they have to change yours too.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yes, I do remember that. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I do remember that. But again, I don't foresee that happening. Believe me, I if it had to, I mean, again, and I think I even expressed it then. Our budget would be pretty high in an atmosphere where higher budgets is being frowned upon in a sense, with everything else that's going on. So again, that might be something we can talk about offline, Angela, and just kind of maybe if there's something that I'm missing on our end.
Maybe we can
But
all
yeah.
at least repost it on LinkedIn and resubmit it
Yeah.
out to our
No,
networks
it's
and
been
stuff and things like that.
Yeah, um, I've even updated our LinkedIn page for the town of Southborough, made changes on there, made it more presentable in a sense, put our logo on there, and then advertised right from there as well. Same, with Indeed, we had it out there for quite some time. MMA, we did it twice already, and MMA is more the mass municipal location where they can find jobs that are municipalities. So
If the salary was budgeted for the full year and we haven't spent any of that Q1 budget, then what happens to that budget? Can it be re-leveraged for other purposes?
it can be I'm
Like
loosely,
either a recruiter fee or a contract person?
I'm loosely
too?
saying that because a lot of people that has to happen before I could think of doing something like that. But yeah, I mean, technically, it can be moved around if I need to. And again, that's part of what I'm thinking of in the sense of support until I have someone on
That's
board.
it. That's the other thing is we don't want you to get burnt out either. And I think we all know how busy it is. And so the sooner we can get you some help so that there's, some level of redundancy, I mean, the better.
Too late.
Yeah. So yeah, let's please, on the committee, let's please mind reposting the LinkedIn,
Yeah.
liking it or whatever.
Yeah.
And as well as searching for across our, if you have just a few minutes, search across your networks. If you have anybody that might be interested and qualified.
Yeah.
Be helpful.
Yeah, that would be the best part of help right now is if anybody has anybody that you can think of, please send them my way.
Can you forward the resume out to us so that I can socialize it with some of the groups I'm in?
Job description.
Larry,
can you forward the jobs? I meant the job description. Not the
I know.
Could you? I'm sorry.
You hiring?
My head is still full of drugs. If you could forward the job description.
I'll tell you the link. It's on the town website as well. So.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, thanks. And let us know if there's other things you feel like we can help with at all. I understand, as Angela mentioned, you are way over capacity right now. So anything we need to help out. All right, library hotspots. I think we are sort of in a holding pattern, high library hotspots, to get more information on the users of those. And I think we were waiting for Ryan from the library to get that information. Is that correct? Is my correct understanding? I see Angela nodding and Jay nodding.
I believe so. And
actually, I'm a user of those.
Yeah.
And with my family because my internet went out due to a problem with a wire by Verizon. So I was on it for about a day. It was very good. It was extremely helpful.
Huh. Nice. Okay. Next item, town digital content accessibility. I think this is something that you wanted to discuss, Will. And I think you had a proposal as well. Is that right? You're muted. You're still muted, Will.
I'm sorry. Yes, that's what I'm sending out to Joe right now. And his email just became active. So that's really timely.
Awesome.
But
I was just going to email you and tell you that I literally just today. I just got
well, it at the beginning of the meeting, it wasn't showing up in the it was not showing up in the search, when you tried to send it to somebody. But what it is that, right now, and Mr. Litt can also comment on this as well. There are accessibility problems in what's being put out for town electronic communications, and that would include website, emails, PDFs, others. And we don't necessarily have a good mechanism right at the moment in order to make certain that people can alert someone, the appropriate someone, that there is an accessibility problem, and then get that fixed quickly without a lot of muss and fuss. And one of our problems here is that we have a lot of different websites. Some of them look like the town website, and Recreation Department has a different looking website. And there's also a lot of different departments and groups and boards and committees and such that are creating content and not necessarily, they're not necessarily aware of what, is accessible content or not. And they use, of course, a variety of different tools to create this content. And, as a result, things go out that are not accessible. Probably one of the most glaring examples would be that there might be an alert on the town webpage that's done in images that do not have any alternate text. And so if you're using a screen reader or, because you're blind or whatever, you really won't get much out of that image. You won't know what it's saying. So what I did is I came up with a very low-tech version of an approach that might help. I think one of the key pieces to it is to try and go through the boards and committees and commissions and identify, let's say, someone who would be responsible for that board or that department or whatever. And if an accessibility issue were to arise with some content that had been created and put out on behalf of that board or commission or committee, that they could report it. And just to keep it very simple, the only thing I envisioned here was some type of link at the bottom of pages of town websites that would bring up a form to author an email and maybe capture some additional information that I've listed there and allow for uploads or for web addresses, whatever, so that someone who would run into an accessibility problem would be able to alert a central person, or at least log an email to this to an email address, and that email account would be looked at on a regular basis by a number of people who are interested in making certain that the town's communications are accessible. And then either the email would also perhaps go to the people that were responsible for that department's electronic communications, or the email would be forwarded by someone else. And so that's what I've jotted down here. What I'm hoping is this would not require any significant effort to implement. And it really hopefully wouldn't require much in the way of an effort to administer. But I think it would certainly at least provide a mechanism that quickly that people could be reporting this. And then, once we have these list of issues in a central spot, then I actually am also on the Southborough Public Accessibility Committee. And, they would want to look at this and make sure that these kinds of issues were being resolved quickly. We also have an ADA coordinator who is Mark Purple, the town administrator. And of course, he's very busy. So, though he may be alerted to these, I don't really expect him to get involved in trying to nail down, who should correct this. And then finally, the other aspect to it was that I had the town clerk involved here. And the reason that I put the town clerk involved here is that the town clerk can actually kind of lean on committees to clean up what they're doing, or boards or commissions. It's not necessarily the case that one committee in this town will listen to another committee. I think that the town clerk, however, does have some staff, and he also interacts pretty much with all the different committees and boards and commissions, et cetera. And, he might be just a good clearinghouse. But once again, I think it would only be that he would be passing it on to someone who would actually, do whatever work is required to correct the issue. So that's the approach I've laid out. I would certainly like any comments. There's not a real time pressure on getting this implemented. it would be nice if we could perhaps get this implemented before town meeting and it could be announced there.
Okay, I don't have it in, hold on just one second. Let me display it in a different format that I basically copy and paste from the email into something that is readable here. So before we jump into potentially solutionizing, Larry, do you have a comment or a question?
I just had a question. Does the town currently have any place where it provides accessibility guidelines for people who are preparing online content?
No.
Okay. I mean, that seems like an initial problem. If people don't know the problem they're trying to solve, then they're probably not going to solve it.
Yeah, they
Well,
don't realize there's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, the issue there is that when you begin to look at the different laws and regulations for accessibility, there are state laws and regulations, and then there are federal laws and regulations, and then there are independent bodies, public bodies that are interested in accessibility and publish various laws and regulations. So, that's a good catch, Larry. I mean, that might be, step 0, which is to maybe define at least a rough guide that people could consult. Here is sort of if you're creating a PDF, it should be searchable. If you're going to create an image, you should make sure that there's an alternate text that it would play nice with the screen reader. Those kinds of tips and tricks. And, if only we did that, even if it wasn't 100% complete, I think it would still hopefully make things better.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it would be nice if there were a well-defined set of accessibility guidelines developed by an appropriate organization that has expertise in this area. But there's no doubt that a reasonable person with a little bit of expertise and a lot of concern couldn't put down 15 or 20 guidelines on a web page and say, if you're producing online content, worry about this stuff, like the thing that you just pointed out.
Right. I'll tell you, it's funny though, the people that are kind of blind to it. One time I went into a department at Mass General, the eye and ear department, and there worked with this woman who was, she had a seeing eye dog because she had a very narrow range of vision, only central vision, no peripheral vision. But when she sent me an email, it was this light purple on a white background, which was completely unreadable. And it's like, oh, to her, yeah, I'm sure it stood out very clearly, but to me, it was unreadable.
Similarly, I have a color deficient wife. So over many years, I've become very sensitive. And, we were looking at a map recently where the different regions were shaded light green, slightly lighter green, slightly darker green, and dark green. And she just stared at it and said, "Are any of those different colors?" But having worried about human factors in the past, color deficient people are one of the things that I've always worried about, and I'm always saying, when I'm drawing pictures, are these two things next to each other going to be seen by the right people? But yeah, I mean, there's the text, alternative text for diagrams. There's color deficiency issues. There's a variety of them, and it seems like making people aware of them is got to be a first step if we're going to actually have people complaining about the problems.
Yeah, that's foundational, right? You don't nick people on a policy or guidelines if they don't even exist. So having some sort of document that has outlines what are the base requirements from a law, like here's the minimal bar, and then here's what we're trying to achieve that may be above or beyond the bar, right? And so my question is that something, Will, that you have time to create an initial draft of, or the committee that you're on has?
Yeah, I'll create an initial draft of that because, as I said, I have a foot in the accessibility committee as well as this committee. So, and but Larry, I think you're lucky your wife never then compliments on whether or not your socks match, right?
I won't even go down that path.
I think Mr. Litt has a comment. Mr. Litt, you want to?
So accessibility is something I've worked on for a very long time. As far as the law goes, the law basically says things need to be accessible. It doesn't tell you how you get there. There are guidelines for the web, which are the W3CAG, which is the World Wide Web Accessibility Guidelines that are published. There are a number of tools, utilities, some free, some not, some are really sales tools, but that will go through a website and outline issues. Last time I ran it on part of the town website, there were 5,000 or so, of which a good 3/4 aren't real, but the rest are. There is a company that sends out periodic newsletters that are, I think, primarily marketing, but often have good summaries of what's going on in the federal and state by state place. I can send that along.
Yeah, I guess one thing to say is that there's no one who's, from a God's eye view, judging all of our communications for accessibility. The main thing here is that if someone does come across an accessibility issue and would like to see it corrected, that we do have some type of quick to implement mechanism that indeed will happen. Because one of the things that the town just did is we did this past 6 months, we did a accessibility self-evaluation, which is required in the law. And it came up with a whole bunch of issues, many of which will not be solved for years. That's okay. Once we've identified the issues and published them, and we've worked out saying, here are issues that we're going to try and fix quickly. Here are issues that we know we have, but it's going to take longer. That protects the town legally from someone suddenly popping up and saying, you've got accessibility issues that you're not doing anything about, and they complain to the state. The state comes in and has a finding that this has to be corrected immediately, even if it's going to cost $1 million. So, those are the kinds of things here. We're trying to make it better, and we're also trying to make sure that the town is legally protected, but not necessarily, we're not going to get to 100%, accessible content anytime soon, I don't think. Better is the emphasis.
So I agree with Will's summary. I will say that for, I think it's going on 5 years now, hard to believe, I've been working with the town clerk, and the things that come out of his office are much, much better as a result. So, PDFs that he sends out do have, searchable text, and he tends to make sure that he isn't sending out images. As Will also mentioned, the problem is there are so many content creators that don't, and then there's a lot of check the box things that a tool like the one that Matt's running at the moment won't show up, where someone says, accessible text, I'll put in X. That checks the box, but it doesn't provide meaningful content. And alt text and, titles. The rule for just to give you guys a little bit of a feel, the rule for alt text is that if you are looking at a page, you don't have the image, you see the alt text, you ought to know what's being communicated. And so, you'll get, alt text things that say like logo. They don't say Town of Southborough logo, or they'll say survey, and they won't say, what the survey is for, or, when it's due, or, any of the other information that people, embed into the images. Jason, I think, can testify that I can talk for over an hour on this without barely scratching the surface, and I don't want to do that here. Jason was at one of the accessibility committee
Right.
things
Right, but
where this came up, but I just want to give you a little bit of the flavor. I also sent to everyone except Joe, who doesn't seem to have a canonical username, my comments back to Will. I think he's got a great idea, but I think it needs a little bit more thought in terms of where things go.
Which is great. That's fine.
What we don't want is all, so first of all, I don't think we have a unified town ticketing system that you say, hey, I have an issue with this page, and it automatically goes to the right person or right department, etc. And what we don't want is like creating more channels for Jason to get lots and lots of tickets.
I agree. And sort of my, I guess there were two big things that came out of my notes. I mean, one is I don't think we want to put the town clerk in the middle of this. We have an ADA coordinator, and we have Jason and a distribution list that includes the two of them. Seems like the right thing. And over time, we may get more fine-grained in terms of where things go. But it's important, that the ADA committee be aware of, or actually it's now called the accessibility committee, is aware of what's going on and what the issues are. And it really is their bailiwick to see to it that they get addressed.
Right. I mean, I see the accessibility committee sort of providing a review, when they meet, which sometimes is only once a month. Lately, it seems like it's every day, but I see them providing sort of an overview and say, hey, here's a bunch of issues that have been standing out there for a while. We need to get them fixed, and sort of then maybe approach people. But I'm hoping that we can engineer something that it doesn't depend upon the accessibility committee, to be the center of it, nor that it overloads our technology department with its large staff.
Oh, I agree. And I think there's, for a very small bit of engineering, we can implement a lot of what you suggest.
Right.
I mean, everything on the town website, except I think the boards and committees database, has a common page footer, which currently has, the town, town hall hours, and then it's got a disclaimer link, which could easily be repurposed to, legal and accessibility.
Oh, one other thing, Tim, I just checked, and Joe Provo's email is jprovo, which
it bounces from the outside, Jason.
Oh, it does. Oh, it didn't bounce from the inside.
When I was just created during this meeting. It just created during this meeting. So, wait, Larry, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I guess I do question the approach of trying to somehow distribute the responsibility. It seems to me that in order to improve something like this, there actually needs to be a person or set of people who consider it their role to make something happen. And if nothing happens, then we have two problems. One is people will stop submitting issues because they don't see any improvement. And since the approach recommended by Will is sort of a continuous improvement kind of approach, if we don't have the mandate that says when an issue comes in, somebody will record it and track it, even if they distribute the responsibility to somebody else, somebody's got to follow up and make sure that it gets fixed at some point, or at least it's scheduled to get fixed. Otherwise, we'll just be a year later and 200 items have been reported and 3 of them have been fixed, and everybody's off worrying about their day jobs, and we really haven't solved any problems.
Larry, so, I would agree with you that I think there should be a group that's sort of managing the list of issues, but I think they're going to have to hand off the correction to the people who actually authored the content, simply because the people authoring the content are.
That's
Right.
fine, as long
Okay.
as long as they hand it off and then follow up to, to say, is this done? Oh, great, I'll check it off.
Right. So I agree, Larry, and on a couple of fronts. One is, yes, there needs to be a person and a group who are responsible, and the ADA coordinator is, according to the bylaw, guess what? It's another one I drafted. Responsible for doing that, and the accessibility committee is responsible for following up, for getting the reports and saying, what's going on with it. The second place where I'll agree with you is that the space of all possible things you can do for accessibility is very, very large. And none of the content providers is going to try and become as expert as I am, or even one of you, turns out to be on this. So I think it really would be a good thing to put together, the Cliff Notes version of, you got to do at least these minimal things in order to not screw up too badly.
So I assume, Will, that is exactly what the accessibility committee should be doing for each of these areas that they have jurisdiction over, right? Like, what does accessibility mean in terms of town offices and communication, and in terms of public and commercial buildings and programs, goods and services? Like, what is the base, the foundational rule here? And that's
Okay.
so that Cliff Notes guide is, I assume, the responsibility of the
Yeah,
committee,
yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, we'll put that together. I guess just let's back up a moment here. When we did the self-evaluation this past 6 months ago, or 8 months ago, that we had to call in experts, expert consultants, because it is not something that is simple. You look at it, one document, you say, oh, these handles in this bathroom are bad. And the same thing is probably more true of electronic as well, simply because there are so many different tools and there are so many different ways it can kind of go south. So we'll try and make things better, and we'll try and and see if we can work and find ways to make things more accessible. But there isn't necessarily, we'd really have to hire a consultant, to really, who could come in and say, yes, I'm trained and certified in all these different areas, and I can look at what you're doing. Just as when we were looking at our physical plant, the recreational fields and the buildings, we had to call in expert consultants who were certified in this area.
Yeah, we spent about $40,000 on consultants who were supposed to look across the board, and they paid about 15 seconds worth of tribute to the town website, ignored all other electronic communications, and did a really great job on bathrooms and doorknobs and windows and ramps and all that other stuff, which is equally important, but it is a different skill set.
Okay,
and the other thing, to be fair to the accessibility committee, they were approved at the last annual town meeting, as a standing committee. So they've been functional roughly since January.
Yeah. I know. I'm trying to harp on there. I was simply saying, look, it's one thing for windows and doors and stuff where there's actually existing code, right? There's code you can look up on that does influence accessibility, about how high you can place doorknobs, etc. There's no code on, published code necessarily on websites, etc. So this is what we need. We need some baselines, so that if you're coming up with a new website, sending out emails, whatever, what are the baselines? And I think once you have that sort of those cliff notes, that foundation, then we promote that to all of the content owners, whether it be the town website content or the rec department content, or library content, or whoever's board and committee content. And then we try to work with them to audit against and improve their content where there's issues against that code. So,
and there is no code, but there are an awful lot of guidelines, and there are an awful lot of best practices.
Right. And
yes, and that's what we need to compile.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think the really sort of the bottom line here is, as I said, we're not going to get to 100%
ever
accessibility ever, and in fact, no one really knows what that is. But if someone complains about something and we can get that fixed quickly, then I think we've done a great job on that particular day, right? By the way, I confirm that Jay, Joe, you are not accessible from outside.
Yeah,
And-
I just tried to reach out to Mr. Litt, and it bounced as can't even send out to me, and so I was just forwarding it to Jason.
Well, you come from the wrong side of the tracks, Joe. Come on.
Hey, wait a minute. I'm on the south side of town too.
Well, I rest my
I'm-
case.
I'm a newcomer.
And Will is only 100 yards north of the Pike.
And
No, I'm
there-
talking Route 9. Route 9 is the dividing line. I'm sorry, but I'm on the wrong side of Route 9.
It's always been Route 9. And
All right,
there
let's move.
are also some potentially simple things. You know, I sent out an email a while ago that there's a typeface developed by the Braille Institute called Atkinson Hyperlegible, which I use for almost everything. It's such a clear, readable typeface. What they did is they designed it to take all of the letters that could potentially be confused with each other by people who have vision problems and made them sufficiently different in order to address that issue. And I use it for all of my diagrams and slides and things like that, because it's just a really legible typeface. And maybe that's one possible solution to improving accessibility of websites. I mean, that's what they designed it for.
That's a good thing to throw in the notes. Yeah, I like it. All right, I suppose let's move on. I think we have an action item there, and would love to see and review the output of that. All right, let's move to MTC processes. Action item tracking. So let me pull up the document. I think Larry, based on our previous meetings discussion, you were able to update this to the current status. Is that correct? Let me share my screen.
I did. I tried to update it based on the discussion we had at the last meeting. I also, the state of the list at the last meeting was through October or November. I can't remember. And I added the meetings through January and possibly February to this. So it's more up to date. I've sorted them so that the resolved ones are at the bottom, the open items are at the top.
Okay.
So I've tried to provide a little organization to it.
Okay, nice. So this isn't organized by date. It's organized by a date.
Well, it's
and then
organized
within the category, within the
Yeah.
status.
Are you going to be the keeper of this going forward, Larry?
It wouldn't be a profession that I aspire to, but it is for the time being. Until somebody else steps up and says, "Oh, that's spreadsheet." I'm sure you all have Excel, so
I like it. Larry's taking notes as well, so he's if you don't mind keeping this up to date, we'd appreciate it. So I don't know if I think we necessarily need to go through all of these, but be good to, before our next meeting, if we were each to review the ones especially that we're owners of, and work towards closing those items. For items that are unknown owner, do we want to go through and assign ownership? For example, I'm happy taking this one, the setting up program for personal assistance for online issues. I have a couple of sons in the National Honor Society, Algonquin. They organize various different service projects. It's required, they have to have so many hours of service, etc. And they are already doing this apparently for the town of Northborough, where Algonquin students are serving the community for helping them with technology issues, etc. So I need to reach out to the senior center as well as the library, most likely the senior center, to find out what date and time do they want to schedule this, and then we can basically get some youth to sign up to come in and help. So yeah,
Okay.
if you put my name down there. SSO will be set up for various online services. I think that's more of a question. I think Jay, I don't know if you're able to look into that one, but that new software, well, I know the software the Board of Health is using, but do they have single sign-on and multi-factor off? Ideally, single sign-on with multi-factor off for their services.
Which services again?
The Board of Health, I don't know what software that they use.
Well,
If they have any.
they besides if you're talking about the printer, then it's the printing application, so they can scan their badge to release the print jobs.
Oh, okay.
That's for wow, I'm blanking out on what the name is. I literally just talked about it today too.
They don't have
but
any
then
like
there's Duo, yeah,
electronic health record system that they use. Board of Health uses by chance?
that I'm not too familiar with. I know that they, besides the fact that they log into their computers with Duo, and as I said, with releasing the jobs, I'm not sure if they're using SSO for any applications that they're using within the Board of Health, but I can follow up on that.
I've completely forgotten what software or online services they use and whether they use
Yeah, I
everything.
mean, if you could just follow up in next meeting, if you can report that there's nothing here that we need to worry about, then we'll just close the issue.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it had to do with the printing jobs and on top of it Duo, but as far as I know, I don't believe there's anything else other than that. But I will follow up on that.
So just so I catch that, so we actually have it in place so you can, to be able to print jobs, you have to go to the printer and scan your badge. Is that right?
Yes. Paper cut.
printer-
Paper cut. Sorry, I was trying to think of the name of the software. It's Paper Cut is the name of the application.
And does the printers have built-in some external scanner, or do you actually have to like put your badge on the?
Yeah, so you put your badge, which is associated to Active Directory.
Yep.
So it links that person to through Active Directory, and then they scan their badge on a small little location on the printer, which then logs them into AD, and then they can see their jobs and release their jobs from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you just barely set that up, or have we had that for a while?
I set it up for the
Family
Board of
Services.
Health. Yeah, but I believe that they had it there for the police department, so that they can release any jobs that way as well. I just purchased a new license and set it up over here at Board of Health. I had used that prior. That was my suggestion at first until I found out that we had it at the police department. I just need to purchase a new license for the Board of Health.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, and this document scanning stuff, I know, Angela, you'd been coordinating, I think you were coordinating a
Yeah, that one for
discussion
Mr.
with
Hegarty
Mountain.
is closed. He did confirm that we could have a meeting with them without violating open meeting laws if we were essentially just doing it as a training session. That is scheduled for Monday, the 28th. So hopefully everybody has that invite and is able to attend. They did ask for a high-level estimate of what our paper inventory is across the town. Jay, I don't know if you saw that email and if we have any kind of idea of how much just filing cabinets each department might have.
Is this for all departments, or is it just the clerk's office? The clerk's
Could be
office
anyone that we want to digitize.
Okay. I'm guessing we should basically, if you wouldn't mind, Angela, or I can do it if you'd like, sending out email to the different department heads, asking them like literally how many filing cabinets. We're considering just getting a high level estimate of what it would take to digitize documents. How many filing cabinets would you be interested in digitizing? And the biggest one by several orders of magnitude is going to be Mr. Hegarty. Yeah.
And he's on the call, so he would be able to probably speak to that directly. Let's take that offline, Matt. I'm
Okay,
happy to send
sounds
out an
good.
email. I just don't have all the
Okay,
department heads' names.
I can help you with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think we were working first on. Yeah, I think we can take this offline, Jason. The second internet ISP provider and that network review. Ex officio from the school committee. You can put my name down for that to follow up the school committee, Larry, for that one.
Okay.
And updated Survey Monkey account. We did not get the budget, unfortunately, for the updated Survey Monkey account, so I had to do my best in simplifying what we had, and rather than doing combined survey of ARPA and satisfaction with branching logic, I separated out into 2 separate surveys to make life easier for people. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we will get our requested budget for next year. So next year we can truly have something that's a more advanced.
So this is closed now, for now?
Keep it open. This is
I'll
dependent.
move
Keep
it
it
to
open until we
I'll move it to in progress.
progress. Okay, great. Youth Family Services tech requirements. That's still open. Yeah. Feel free to put my name there. I've been having discussions with Sarah. And ARPA funds for SCADA security. I think that that's part of one of the things we have on the ARPA list, voting list, is better Wi-Fi, which is inclusive of external Wi-Fi at the DPW. So that should be good. This is in progress, and I think, Angela, I guess you're working on drafting the vendor selection questionnaire form. Is that right?
And are there any, one of the other things that I would like to do, because it'll save me some effort later, is if we've identified any action items at this meeting that should be added to the list. That way I don't have to do it retrospectively.
And one thing is, I think Will volunteered to work with the accessibility committee to draft the initial cliff notes for what needs to be done for tech accessibility, web, email, etc. And then we can help provide feedback from it from our perspective before we start circulating it to various content owners within town.
I'll send them to you in email, Larry, for the ones that I recorded.
Yeah, Larry, that'd be great. I sent you an email asking you to.
And then
Okay.
I think Joe and I will find time to work with Jay on the network review. Okay, any other things we missed from action items? Once again, thanks, Larry, for maintaining that doc. I don't have anything else on the agenda before we schedule our next meeting. Is there anything else that I missed on the agenda before we schedule our next meeting?
Just a quick plug. If anyone hasn't taken the ARPA survey and hasn't voted for our technology projects, please go out there and do that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks for that plug. Yeah. All right. I think, Mr. Litt, you have your hand up. Do you have any comments?
Well, a couple more. First, on the Senior Center Technology Citizen Assistance thing, there are actually 2 programs for assisting citizens with technology that are running at the moment that I know of. One is the Senior Center is bringing in a couple of people, I think they're based in Marlborough, who are providing assistance. I'm not quite sure what the schedule is, but Pam will tell you. And then the library is running I think it's Tuesday's schedule with students also trying to provide citizen assistance with technology. on places to think about for digitalization. Things come to mind. Board of Health has a huge set of paper files. You know, they've got all your septic system plans and all that sort of stuff. Conservation files a lot of plans. Planning board and building department, you know, all have significant paper records that need to be looked at for digitalization. Assessors, I think, is mostly using a third-party online system. I don't know if they have paper records left. Then, let's see. Oh, I recently put out an old memo of mine on the appointment process for MTC members. I updated it because of a bylaw change, but I remember there was discussion before the meeting started about when do people's terms expire and such. And, you know, part of that memo suggests that because of the number of appointing authorities, it's probably best for the MPC to keep track of this. And also because of the lead times, if anyone decides that they're not interested in having their appointment renewed, then it's important to give them the appointing authorities the lead time to find someone else and to go through the process of getting an appointment made. And I encourage all of you to review it. I sent Larry an updated copy.
I have
that
it.
One.
And I should take an action item for myself on the list to get that posted and to keep track, to create the mechanism to keep track of the members and their terms.
Yeah,
So
that would be great.
I'll put that on the action item list so it doesn't get lost.
I'm happy helping as well, Larry. If you, I know there's a lot of
It's
things
right
your
on the
plate.
website on our MTC page. It has each of us and it has exactly when our term expires. So it's right on the website. It's very easy to look
Well,
at.
you actually have to go to the boards and committees thing to find out who the appointing authority is for each position. And there's a little bit of extra stuff there. And lastly, I sort of have a question for Jason. What's the status of getting a .gov domain? And I also have an observation that I made on mass.gov has registered mass.gov as a service mark. And this turns out to be an interesting thing I hadn't thought of for the UDRP, the Uniform Dispute Resolution Policy of ICANN. It allows you to protect the domain name against, you know, people having similar domain names, like, you know, a .com that's equivalent to whatever we come up with, without having to actually pay for registering them, because trademarks and service marks have precedence. So it's sort of two parts. The first part is, can you tell me what the status is on this? Because I know it's been open for a long time. And second, a suggestion that says maybe we should register whatever that domain name is as a service mark too.
Honestly, it has not gone anywhere at the moment. I have been way too preoccupied with other items internally to really worry about changing our name over, because there's a lot involved with not just changing the domain name, but then I want to keep our email domain the same. So I would have to switch that as well. So that I don't have time to focus on something like that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not suggesting that you do. I'm not suggesting that you do the work. I'm suggesting that you just reserve the domain name so that paperwork is done. And when you do have the time, it's sitting there.
Well, I don't think southborough.ma.gov is going anywhere.
Yeah.
So
I don't believe so either. But again, it's not. It is something that is on my agenda to get done. It is literally on my whiteboard. It is probably the one thing that has not been deleted on my whiteboard, and it's probably printed on my whiteboard. So it's definitely on my agenda of getting done. Is the moment I have that opportunity to do that type of work, I will definitely get it done. I'm
not trying to give you a hard time. I know you're swamped, but it's just
this is a matter of priorities, and I completely agree with Jay that this is a lower priority, especially lower than hiring and getting our finally redundant servers and so forth.
Piece.
So, yeah.
But
It's
my only point was that we're in a window where instead of charging us for a domain name, you can get one just by sending the memo in.
Yeah.
The memo exists. It just needs to be signed and sent in.
Yeah.
And if that were done, I'd shut up and go away about it.
And
And
you're
I may
saying
do
in
that
the-
anyway, but I just,
we're in a window, and when does that window expire?
I don't know. It has been the case for years that a .gov domain name was outrageously expensive. It was like $400 a year and up. And at the moment it's free. And it's not clear to me whether, changes in administration will revert that. But I expect that once you get one, it's grandfathered. That's been the practice in the past. So, and that's the only reason I'm encouraging it, because it's a very small amount of work and it's an opportunity.
And hasn't been, just for my own interest, has it been decided what domain we would go to? It would be at it would be at ma.gov or
Well,
at ma.us or
I
southborough.gov?
suggested that we just go for Southborough ma.gov with no hyphens or anything. That seems to be consistent with the other towns. If you do .ma, then you have to go to the state of Massachusetts because that's a separate subdomain. And I don't remember if they're charging, but they have another involved process.
It's not unlike what Joe's done with the K-12. I mean, but it's guaranteed it would be free there at least, right? It's not a top level domain we're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, when this first came up, and I think it was like last spring or so, I actually just drafted the memo, filled in the blanks, and sent it to Jason, and said, when you get a minute, if you could just agree with it and have it signed, it will make your life easier someday. And I guess I'm still saying that, and I'm not trying to be difficult or obnoxious about it.
No, it's keyword has been having that minute to, and not only myself, but anybody else that I need to get that signed with and talking about it. So it's not that it has left my vision. I just have not had the time to focus on that at the moment.
Yeah.
But I will be at some
Thanks.
point.
I don't want to take any more time on it now.
Okay. Thanks, Ms. Litt. Mr. Provo, you have a comment?
For what it's worth, the .gov requirements changed April of last year and have not changed since. So it is a reliable gut feeling to say it's associated with the current administration.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Matt, it says that 2 participants had their hands raised. I don't know if Sam had a comment.
But I knew it was Mr. Litz and Mr. Provo.
Okay.
All right. Anything else for the schedule today? I think that's everything. Should we look at our calendars collectively, decide on a date that works for everyone for our April meeting? Nice to obviously have, if we kept with sort of the theme of say in this case, maybe the 3rd Tuesday of April, like the 19th, that would give us a couple of weeks before town meeting.
School vacation.
Oh, is that school vacation?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll also be traveling to see kids because it's Passover weekend.
Want to push it back a week to the 26th? How's that look?
I think that's good.
April 26th. That looks fine for me.
That looks fine.
Joe, how's it look for you?
That's fine for me.
It's in the midst of the Aaron 49 meeting, but if we're staying at the usual time of 7 p.m. Eastern, that should be okay.
7 to 9. Okay.
Meeting April 26th.
So yeah, if that's okay for everybody, let's target 26 from 7 to 9. Jay, how's that look for your schedule?
So far, so good. I just don't know if it looks like it should be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. I move that we adjourn.
I second it.
Okay, roll call vote. Angela,
Aye.
Will,
Hi.
Larry,
Aye.
and likewise I. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you on April 26th.
Nice to meet you, Joe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Yeah, Joe, I think